Welcome to this Microsoft Entra ID learning module. Microsoft Entra ID is a cloud-based identity and access management service provided by Microsoft. Entra ID is a comprehensive solution for managing identities, enforcing access policies, and securing your applications and data in the cloud and on-premises. This module will be aiming to equip you with a comprehensive understanding of the following. Try to describe Microsoft Entra ID, compare Entra ID to Active Directory Domain Services or ADDS, describe how Microsoft Entra ID is used as a directory for cloud apps, describe Entra ID P1 and P2 plans, and Entra domain services. Let's get started. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced IT professional, this module provides you with the knowledge and skills necessary to understand Entra ID effectively. As I've said, Microsoft Entra ID serves as a robust cloud-based identity and access management service. The platform offers a suite of features designed to enhance security and streamline user authentication processes. Microsoft Entra ID differs significantly from Active Directory Domain Services. While ADDS operates as a directory service on Windows Server, Microsoft Entra ID functions as a Platform as Service or PaaS offering. This distinction means that Microsoft manages the infrastructure, reducing the burden of IT departments for deployment and maintenance. Let's take a look at some key features of Microsoft Entra ID. Before we move on to the next slide, let's recap really fast what Microsoft Entra ID manages. It includes multi-factor authentication, identity protection, and self-service password reset. It's also important to remember that Microsoft Entra ID provides secure access to cloud-based resources for organizations and individuals. Let me switch to my next slide. Take a look at some key features of Microsoft Entra ID. The first one is Application Access Management. Microsoft Entra ID allows organizations to configure access to various applications. It supports single sign-on for cloud-based software as a service applications, simplifying the user experience. It also facilitates efficient management of users and groups. It includes features for user provisioning and enables federation between organizations. And of course, enhanced security features. Entra ID incorporates advanced security features, including multi-factor authentication, identity protection, and self-service password reset option. Of course, there is integration with on-premises systems. Organizations can extend their existing on-premises Active Directory implementations to Microsoft Entra ID, creating a hybrid identity solution. It also offers application proxy service, conditional access, identity management solution, and anomaly detection. By leveraging these features of Entra ID, organizations can significantly enhance their security posture and improve user experience. Entra ID represents a shift towards more flexible, cloud-based identity management solutions, addressing the evolving needs of businesses in the digital age. Now, some words about capabilities of Entra ID, and let's take a look at brief overview of these capabilities. We've covered some of them in previous lesson. So, as you remember, Entra ID is a comprehensive suite of identity and access management features. And we can group the capabilities of Entra ID into four main areas. The first one is application access Application access. Entra ID simplifies and secures access to various applications. It enables single sign-on or SSO for cloud-based SaaS applications, streamlining the user experience while maintaining security. So this feature allows organizations to centrally manage application access across their ecosystem. The second main area of Entra ID capabilities is user management. The platform provides robust tools for managing users and groups. It facilitates user provisioning, which allows organizations to efficiently create, update, and delete user accounts. Additionally, Entra ID supports federation between organizations, enabling seamless collaboration across organizational boundaries. The next area is security features. Entra ID incorporates advanced security measures to protect identities and data. Key features include such ones as multi-factor authentication for enhanced account security, identity protection to detect and mitigate potential security risks, conditional access policies to ensure the right users have the right access under the right conditions, and anomaly detection to identify irregular sign-in activities. And one more key area is integration. Microsoft Entra ID is designed to work seamlessly with existing systems. It can extend on-premises Active Directory implementations to the cloud, creating a hybrid identity solution. This integration capability allows organizations to leverage their existing investments while moving towards cloud-based identity management. Now, let's take this real life usage example. And in this real world scenario, we see how Microsoft Entra ID facilitates secure and efficient access management for a typical enterprise employee. The diagram illustrates several components and processes. The first one is Microsoft Entra ID Cloud. As you can see, the diagram at the core of the system is the Microsoft Entra ID Cloud service. It acts as a central hub for identity and access management, coordinating authentication and authorization across various applications and services. And we've also got our employee or user. Employee represents any user within the organization who needs to access various applications and services to perform their job duties. Microsoft Entra ID enables single sign-on process, allowing the employee to access multiple applications with a single set of credentials. This feature significantly enhances user experience and productivity while maintaining security. And there are also such things as application access and multi-factor authentication, or MFA. Our employee to Microsoft Entra ID seamlessly access a diverse range of applications, both cloud-based and on-premises. And in our example, this include Office 365, productivity and collaboration, Salesforce for customer relationship management, can include some custom applications specific to the organization, or BI for data analytics and visualization, and Azure Portal for cloud resource management. As for multi-factor authentication, it can serve as an additional security measure. Entra ID implements multi-factor authentication, and it requires the user to provide 2 or more verification factors to gain access, significantly enhancing account security. And there is also such thing as conditional access. Microsoft Entra ID also employs conditional access policies. These policies can dynamically adjust access requirements based on various factors such as user location, device status, and risk level. This feature ensures that the right people have the right access under the right condition. That's why it is named conditional access. So in practice, when the employee attempts to access any of the connected applications, they are directed to authenticate through Microsoft Entra ID. The system user goes to Microsoft Entra ID. Then the system then applies the appropriate authentication methods, including MFA, multi-factor authentication, if required, and evaluates the access request against the conditional access policies. On successful authentication and authorization, the employee is granted access to the requested application. This setup allows organizations to maintain a high level of security while providing a seamless user experience. It centralizes identity management, reduces the risk of credential-based attacks, and gives administrators fine-grained control over access to corporate resources. Some words about Microsoft Entra ID tiers and Azure integration. Entra ID is an integral part of the Azure ecosystem, providing identity and access management services. Let's take a look of its integration with Azure and its various tiers. I make it larger to zoom in. So, first off, Azure subscription and default directory. Every new Azure subscription automatically includes a Microsoft Entra tenant named default directory. This integration ensures that identity management is available from the outset for any Azure deployment. There is a free tier. The most basic form of Microsoft Entra ID is the free tier. It is included automatically with any new Azure subscription at no additional cost. The free tier provides essential identity management features suitable for many organizations. Subscribing to any Microsoft Online Business service, for example, Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Intune, automatically provides access to Microsoft Entra ID free tier features. There are also some paid tiers, basic and premium. For more advanced identity management features, Microsoft offers paid versions of Entra ID. These come in two tiers, basic and premium. Specific features available in each tier are designed to meet different organizational needs and security requirements. Some premium tier features are automatically included in Microsoft Entra instances generated as part of Microsoft 365 subscriptions. This integration provides enhanced identity management capabilities for Microsoft 365 users without requiring a separate premium tier subscription. Of course, it's important to note here that implementing Microsoft Entra ID is fundamentally different from deploying Active Directory domain services on Azure virtual machines. Please remember that Microsoft Entra ID is a cloud-native service optimized for web-based applications and cloud services. In contrast, ADDS is more focused on managing on-premises applications and network resources. The focus is on web-based apps here. Microsoft Entra ID is designed primarily to provide identity management services for web-based applications. Now, the first thing I want to do is to add a custom domain to my Azure tenant. So to add a custom domain name, to your Azure tenant, you need to create your domain name with a domain registrar first. After that, you can add your custom domain name to your tenant by signing in to the Azure portal for your directory and following the steps outlined in the Microsoft Learn article. Here I'll show you how to step-by-step perform this action. So the steps may vary slightly based on the portal you start from. Once you add your custom domain name, you must return to your domain registrar and add the DNS information from which you copied from the previous step. Creating this TXT or MX record for your domain verifies ownership of your domain name. If you want to add a custom domain name to a web app, mobile app, backend, or API app in Azure App Service, you need to create an App Service app. Please consider that the Web Apps App Service plan must be a paid tier and not free F1. You also need to make sure you can edit the DNS records for your custom domain. To edit DNS records, you need access to the DNS registry for your domain provider, such as GoDaddy and AWS. A bit later on, I'll show how to do this. So once you have these prerequisites, you can configure a custom domain name by navigating to your Apps Management page in the Azure portal, selecting Custom Domains from the left menu and clicking Add Custom Domain. For domain providers, select All Other Domain Services to configure a third-party domain. After that, you need to add DNS entries to your custom domain and verify your ownership of the custom domain by creating a TXT record with the domain verification ID shown in the Add Custom Domain dialog. To add a custom domain name to an Azure static web app, you need to map your custom domain to your site. Azure Static Web App provides an auto-generated domain name for your website by default, but you can point a custom domain to your site. To do this, you need to navigate to your static web app in the Azure portal, select the custom domains item in the sidebar, click the Add button, input the domain into the domain name field with the desired subdomain, and click Next. The next step is to validate this subdomain by creating a CNAME record with your domain provider that points to the static web app. After that, you need to configure the root domain by clicking on the Add button on the custom domain screen, entering the domain without the www portion, and validating that you own this domain by creating a TXT record with the domain provider with the code given to you by Azure. So, with that said, let's create a domain name with one of the following providers: GoDaddy, AWS, or Cloudflare. I personally will create a domain name with AWS because I find several benefits in AWS. But if you want to create a domain name with GoDaddy, follow these steps. Visit godaddy.com and enter your preferred domain name in the search bar. If your domain name is available, add it to your cart and complete the checkout process. If desired, register additional extensions to protect your online brand. So GoDaddy offers full domain privacy and protection packages for both individuals and businesses. This service protects your private information, prevents domain-related spam, and it can also safeguard the website from accidental loss of domain due to expired credit card, potential hacking attempts, and deter domain hijackers. GoDaddy offers a bulk domain check tool that allows you to search up to 500 domains at once. So you can generate domain names with, for example, ChatGPT, and then register the Then check the list of these domains with GoDaddy, if any of them is available. The cost of a domain name can range from starting $2. So it's quite cheap to register a domain and then play around with this registered name on Azure. And of course, there are lots of special discounts on this service. As for creating a domain name with Cloudflare, you can create your domain name with Cloudflare by using Cloudflare Registrar to register a new domain name or transfer an existing domain to Cloudflare. Cloudflare Registrar offers domain names at cost with no fees or markups. To register a new domain, you need to log into the Cloudflare dashboard and select your account. Then go to Domain Registration, Register Domains, and follow the instructions to register your domain. If you already have a domain registered with another registrar, you can transfer it to Cloudflare by following the instructions provided in the Cloudflare registrar documentation. Once you have registered or transferred your domain to Cloudflare, you can add it to your Cloudflare account by creating a new domain within Cloudflare, and then performing additional steps to activate the domain. You can also add a custom domain to a branch on your Pages project by following the instructions provided in the Cloudflare Pages documentation. So, for now, if I'd compare these three, AWS, Cloudflare, and GoDaddy, I'd say that for testing purposes, it's better to register on Cloudflare or GoDaddy because you can start from $2 on these service providers. But if you want to register a domain name for a long term, I'd select AWS because if you pay for 1 year .com domain name, it'll cost you $13. On GoDaddy, it'll cost you $20. And Cloudflare is the cheapest one, but they provide a bit less of services from my point of view. So back to creating a domain name with AWS. To create it on AWS, you can use Amazon Route 53, which is a scalable DNS and domain name registration service. To register a new domain name, you need to follow these steps. Open a browser and navigate to the AWS Management Console. Once you have logged in, ensure that you selected your desired region in the upper right-hand corner based on your infrastructure requirements. Enter Route 53 in the search bar and select Route 53 to open the Service Console. Then choose the Register Domain button and select the domain you want to purchase. Choose the Add to Cart button next to the domain that you want to purchase, and then choose the Continue button at the bottom of the page. After domain registration is complete, return to the AWS console and enter Route 53 in the search bar, and then select Route 53 to open the Service Console. Choose Hosted Zones for the left navigation pane and select the hosted zone that your domain name which you created. Now you can create DNS records for your domain. Note that there is an annual fee to register a domain, as I have already said, and it ranges depending on the top-level domain name, such as .com, .app, .org, or .net. And depending on that name, you'll pay this annual fee. So far as I found, the cheapest annual fee is for .bit domain. I found it on the Cloudflare. And of course, if you don't want to continue supporting this domain name, the cheapest fee is on the GoDaddy. It starts with $1 or $2 for 1 year. And if you don't continue, you pay just this $2 for the year of playing around with this domain name. And finally, when we are done with getting a domain name we want to use, we can add a custom domain name in Azure. To add a custom domain name in Azure, you need to follow these general steps. Purchase a custom domain name from a domain registrar. This we've done already. Create a DNS zone in Azure DNS or delegate your custom domain to Azure DNS. Create a CNAME or a record in your DNS zone to point to your Azure resource, and then add the custom domain to your Azure resource. These specific steps may vary depending on the Azure service you are using. And in the next video, we'll take a look at how to add a custom domain to our Azure Active Directory, or now its new name is Microsoft Entra ID. So I'll see you there. Some words about Microsoft Entra tenants and Azure subscriptions. Entra ID is designed as multi-tenant service, fundamentally different from traditional Active Directory domain services. Let's take a look at Microsoft Entra tenants and their relationship with Azure subscriptions. And of course, here we can have multi-tenant design. Microsoft Entra ID is built to ensure isolation between individual directory instances. It's the world's largest multi-tenant directory, hosting over 1 million directory services instances. The service handles billions of authentication requests per week. The term tenant in this context typically represents a company or organization that signed up for a subscription to a Microsoft cloud-based service such as Microsoft 365, Intune, or Azure, each of which uses Microsoft Entra ID. Technically, a tenant is an individual Microsoft Entra instance. And within a single Azure subscription, you can create multiple Microsoft Entra tenants. This feature is useful for testing Microsoft Entra functionality in one tenant without affecting others. Some words about tenant subscription relationship. An Azure subscription must be associated with one and only one Microsoft Entra tenant at any given time. One tenant, one subscription. This association allows granting permissions to Azure resources via or back to users, groups, and applications in that specific Microsoft Entra tenant. Conversely, a single Microsoft Entra tenant can be associated with multiple Azure subscriptions, enabling centralized identity management across multiple subscriptions. So again, one subscription, one tenant, several subscriptions. As for domain names within tenants, each Microsoft Entra tenant is assigned a default DNS name, domain name with the format your unique prefix here, and for example, on Microsoft.com. Unique prefix is derived from the Microsoft account used to create the Azure subscription or provided explicitly when creating the tenant. Organizations can add custom domain names that they own to their Microsoft Entra tenant. Microsoft Entra tenant also serves as a security boundary and a container for Microsoft Entra objects, such as users, groups, and applications. And of course, a single Microsoft Entra tenant can support multiple Azure subscriptions, as I've said, allowing for flexible and scalable resources management. In this video, let's create a new tenant for our organization and add a custom domain name to Microsoft Entra ID or Azure AD, the old name. So until now, I've registered a domain name for testing purposes, which is learnedlessons.com, and I'll create a new tenant for this organization. So after signing into the Azure portal, I can create a new tenant for this new organization, learnedlessons.com. So from Azure portal menu, I'll select Microsoft Entra ID, and on the overview page, I'll select Manage Tenants. As you can see, till now I have this default directory, and its domain name is Vitaly Shumil outlook.onmicrosoft.com. Tenant type is Microsoft Entra ID and Organization ID. So I'll select Create. Here on the Basics tab, I'll select the type of tenant I want to create, either Microsoft Entra ID or Microsoft Entra ID B2C. I'm okay with Microsoft Entra ID, so next I'll select Configuration to move to the Configuration tab. And on the Configuration tab, I'll enter the following information. I'll type in my desired organization name. For me, it's Learned Lessons, then desired initial domain name, and desired country, region, or I can leave the United States option in the country or region box, and click Next to review and create. Well, seems like I've got a problem here and I can't register a new tenant with Azure free subscription. I just cannot pass this CAPTCHA quest. So as far as I've read, Microsoft implements new security update in Azure and you cannot register a tenant with free subscription due to some security issues. So it seems like I have to upgrade my free subscription here and try again with Azure AD B2C. So I'll click Upgrade, I'll select Basic, it will take some time to verify payment method, and it will take some time to upgrade my subscription to pay-as-you-go. What happens when I upgrade my subscription? I still have access to free services for 12 months. Such as Azure Virtual Machines, Azure Virtual Machines for Linux, Azure SQL Database, Blob Storage, Cosmos DB, App Service, Azure Functions, and Azure Event Grid. So I'm okay with this, and I'm good to go with such kind of subscription for these demonstration purposes. Now when I'm done with upgrading my subscription, I can try again to register a new tenant. So I'll click Microsoft Entra ID, I'll click Manage Tenants and Create. Then I'll select Azure AD B2C, click Next, type in the details, the name of my tenant, Learned Lessons, and I have to select Subscription here and create a new resource group. I'll give it a name Learned Lessons as well, click OK, and click Create, Review and Create. So it'll take some time to create this tenant, but when it is completed, I can move on with building the lab for this course. As you can see, the tenant is ready right now, and I'm good to go to add a custom domain to this tenant. Now let's add our custom domain name to this tenant. Now keep in mind that the person who created the tenant is automatically granted global administrator privileges. The global administrator role is highly privileged and can add additional administrators to the tenant. We'll talk about Azure roles a bit later in this course, but for now, remember that global administrator is very highly privileged account. And again, if you plan to federate on-premises Windows Server Active Directory with Microsoft Entra ID, you need to select I plan to configure this domain for single sign-on with my local Active Directory when you run the Microsoft Entra Connect tool to synchronize your directories. You also need to register the same domain name you select for federating with your on-premises directory in the Microsoft Entra domain step in the wizard. Again, we'll be performing these steps later in this course. We'll be downloading the Microsoft Entra Connect tool and connecting our on-prem Active Directory with Azure Entra ID or Microsoft Entra ID. So I'll browse to Identity, Settings, Domain Names, and Add Custom Domain. In Custom Domain Name, I'll enter my organization's domain. In my case, it's learnedlessons.com. It's important to remember that you must include .com, .net, or any other top-level extension for this to work. When adding a custom domain, the password policy values will be inherited with the initial domain. So the unverified domain is added on this step. The learnedlessons.com page appears showing the DNS information needed to validate my domain ownership. I have to save this information. Now we can add our DNS information to the domain registrar. After adding this custom domain name, we must return to the domain registrar. In my case, it's AWS, and add the DNS information I copied from the previous step. Creating this TXT or MX record for my domain verifies my ownership of my domain name. So I'll go back to my registrar and create a new TXT or MX record for my domain based on my copied DNS information. I'll set the time to live or TTL value to 3600 seconds. It's 60 minutes. And then save the record. Please remember that you can register as many domain names as you want. However, each domain gets its own TXT or MX record, so be careful when you enter the information in the domain registrar. If you enter the wrong or duplicate information by mistake, you'll have to wait until the TTL times out. It's 60 minutes before you can try again. So now we can verify our domain name. After registering this domain name, we'll make sure it's valid in Microsoft Entra. The propagation time can be instantaneous or it can take a few days, depending on the domain registrar. To verify our custom domain name, we'll follow these steps. We'll sign in to Microsoft Entra Admin Center as at least a domain name administrator role. Browse to Identity, Settings, Domain Names, and in Custom Domain Names, we'll select the custom domain name. For example, in my case, it's learnedlessons.com. And on this page, I'll select Verify to make sure my custom domain is properly registered and is valid. Some words about common verification issues. If you can't verify a custom domain name, try to follow these suggestions. Wait at least an hour and try again. DNS records must propagate before you can verify the domain. This process can take an hour or more. Make sure the DNS record is correct. Go back to the domain name registrar site, make sure that the entry is there and that it matches the DNS entry information provided in the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. If you can't update the record on the registrar site, share the entry with someone who has permissions to add the entry and verify it's correct. Also, make sure the domain name isn't already in use in another directory. A domain name can only be verified in one directory. If your domain name is currently verified in another directory, it can't also be verified in the new directory. To fix this duplication problem, you must delete the domain name from the old directory and then try again. Let's take a look at Microsoft Entra schema. Its key features and differences from ADDS. The Microsoft Entra schema is designed to support cloud-based identity and access management, resulting in several key differences from traditional Active Directory domain services. Let's take a look at its key characteristics and how it differs from ADDS. First characteristic is simplified object types. The Microsoft Entra schema contains fewer object types compared to ADDS. There is a notable omission here. No computer class present in Microsoft Entra schema. Instead, it includes a device class. And the process of joining devices to Microsoft Entra ID is significantly different from joining computers to ADDS. Another characteristic of Microsoft Entra schema is its extensibility. The Microsoft Entra schema is easily extensible. Extensions are fully reversible, providing flexibility in schema management. Next one is modern management approach. Lack of traditional computer domain membership means that you can't use Microsoft Entra ID to manage computers or user settings using group policy objects. Instead, Microsoft Entra ID introduces the concept of modern management. GPOs in ADDS and modern management in Microsoft Entra ID schema. Let's take a look at some core strengths of Microsoft Entra ID schema. Primary focus on providing directory services. It's efficient in storing and publishing user, device, and application data. It excels in handling authentication and authorization for users, devices, and applications. And it is effective in supporting cloud services like Microsoft 365, serving millions of users. Let's take a look at such characteristics as organizational structure and application representation in Microsoft Entra schema. It does not include the organizational unit or OU class. It is unable to arrange objects into a hierarchy of custom containers, which is common in on-premises ADDS deployments. This isn't significant limitations as OUs in ADDS are primarily used for group policy scoping and delegation. Equivalent arrangements can be achieved by organizing objects based on group membership. In Azure Entra ID schema, you can use group-based membership instead of OUs. As for application representation, it uses two distinct classes to represent applications: application and service principal class. Application class contains the application definition, and service principal class represents the application instance in the current Microsoft Entra tenant. Separation allows defining an application in one tenant and using it across multiple tenants. A service principal object is created when registering the corresponding application in a Microsoft Entra tenant. Understanding these key features and differences is crucial for effectively leveraging Microsoft Entra ID in modern cloud-based environments. While it may lack some traditional ADDS features, Microsoft Entra ID's design is optimized for cloud-scale identity and access management, providing flexibility and efficiency in managing users, devices, and applications across cloud services. Let's take a look at some differences between Microsoft Entra ID versus Active Directory Domain Services or ADDS. While Microsoft Entra ID and Active Directory domain services share some common characteristics, they have significant differences in their design, functionality, and use cases, and here are some comparisons. Start with deployment. Traditional deployment on physical or virtual Windows servers. These characteristics goes to Active Directory domain services. We can deploy software on physical or virtual Windows servers on-premises infrastructure. It can be deployed on Azure as well. On Azure, we'll deploy on VMs for scalability and availability. But this also doesn't utilize Microsoft Entra ID. That'll be traditional deployment, but only on Azure. For the structure, ADDS goes with true directory service with a hierarchical X500 based structure. For components, ADDS is part of a suite of Windows Active Directory technologies, including Active Directory certificate services, lightweight directory services, duration services, and rights management services. It uses DNS for local resources like domain controllers. It is manageable via lightweight directory access protocol calls. It primarily uses Kerberos protocol for authentication and uses organizational units and group policy objects for management, including computer objects for domain joint machines. It uses trusts between domains for delegated management. All this goes for ADDS, additional structure. Now, some words about Microsoft Entra ID comparing to ADDS traditional structure. First off, it's cloud-based service, so the deployment is different. Another difference is the structure. It has flatter structure compared to ADDS. It is designed for cloud-based identity and access management. It uses REST APIs for management instead of LDAP. Deploys modern authentication protocols like OAuth, SAML, and OpenID Connect. It implements modern management concepts instead of GPOs. It uses device objects instead of computer objects. And it is multi-tenant by design. The key differences are 1. Environment. ADDS is primarily for on-premises environments, while Microsoft Entra ID is cloud native. 2. Structure. ADDS has a hierarchical structure, while Microsoft Entra ID has a flatter structure. 3. Management. ADDS uses LDAP and GPOs, while Microsoft Entra ID uses REST APIs and modern management concepts. Authentication. ADDS primarily uses Kerberos, while Microsoft Entra ID uses various modern protocols. 5. Object types. ADDS includes computer objects, while Microsoft Entra ID uses device objects. 6. Multi-tenancy. Microsoft Entra ID is inherently multi-tenant, while ADDS uses domain trusts to cross-domain relationships. Now let's add our custom domain name to this tenant. Now keep in mind that the person who created the tenant is automatically granted global administrator privileges. The global administrator role is highly privileged and can add additional administrators to the tenant. We'll talk about Azure roles a bit later in this course, but for now, remember that global administrator is very highly privileged account. And again, if you plan to federate on-premises Windows Server Active Directory with Microsoft Entra ID, you need to select I plan to configure this domain for single sign-on with my local Active Directory when you run the Microsoft Entra Connect tool to synchronize your directories. You also need to register the same domain name you select for federating with your on-premises directory in the Microsoft Entra domain step in the wizard. Again, we'll be performing these steps later in this course. We'll be downloading the Microsoft Entra Connect tool and connecting our on-prem Active Directory with Azure Entra ID or Microsoft Entra ID. So I'll browse to Identity, Settings, Domain Names, and Add Custom Domain. In Custom Domain Name, I'll enter my organization's domain. In my case, it's learnedlessons.com. It's important to remember that you must include .com, .net, or any other top-level extension for this to work. When adding a custom domain, the password policy values will be inherited with the initial domain. So the unverified domain is added on this step. The learnedlessons.com page appears showing the DNS information needed to validate my domain ownership. I have to save this information. Now we can add our DNS information to the domain registrar. After adding this custom domain name, we must return to the domain registrar. In my case, it's AWS, and add the DNS information I copied from the previous step. Creating this TXT or MX record for my domain verifies my ownership of my domain name. So I'll go back to my registrar and create a new TXT or MX record for my domain based on my copied DNS information. I'll set the time to live or TTL value to 3600 seconds. It's 60 minutes. And then save the record. Please remember that you can register as many domain names as you want. However, each domain gets its own TXT or MX record, so be careful when you enter the information in the domain registrar. If you enter the wrong or duplicate information by mistake, you'll have to wait until the TTL times out. It's 60 minutes before you can try again. So now we can verify our domain name. After registering this domain name, we'll make sure it's valid in Microsoft Entra. The propagation time can be instantaneous or it can take a few days, depending on the domain registrar. To verify our custom domain name, we'll follow these steps. We'll sign in to Microsoft Entra Admin Center as at least a domain name administrator role. Browse to Identity, Settings, Domain Names, and in Custom Domain Names, we'll select the custom domain name. For example, in my case, it's learnedlessons.com. And on this page, I'll select Verify to make sure my custom domain is properly registered and is valid. Some words about common verification issues. If you can't verify a custom domain name, try to follow these suggestions. Wait at least an hour and try again. DNS records must propagate before you can verify the domain. This process can take an hour or more. Make sure the DNS record is correct. Go back to the domain name registrar site, make sure that the entry is there and that it matches the DNS entry information provided in the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. If you can't update the record on the registrar site, share the entry with someone who has permissions to add the entry and verify it's correct. Also, make sure the domain name isn't already in use in another directory. A domain name can only be verified in one directory. If your domain name is currently verified in another directory, it can't also be verified in the new directory. To fix this duplication problem, you must delete the domain name from the old directory and then try again. In this lab, we are going to create a domain controller for our Azure infrastructure. Then we'll install Microsoft Entra ID or Azure AD on this domain controller to transfer information from this domain controller to our Azure environment. So first off, I create virtual hard drive for this domain controller. It will be named lead DC. I'm using a parent HDX for Windows 2022 server, and I'm using differentiation parameter to make it faster and to keep some space. Then I'm creating a new virtual machine with this one-liner new VM lead DC 1 with 3 GB memory, and it'll be generation 1, and switch name is external. Then I'm temporarily disabling checkpoints with this command set VM lead DC1 checkpoint disabled, and I'm starting this DC1. Next, I need to make some initial configurations, as this disk is sysprep prepared. So I need to type in administrator credentials and answer several questions. Then I'm connecting to this server with this etsn command to rename this computer, to name it lead DC1, to change network parameters with new net IP address command, to set up DNS settings for this server, and install Active Directory on this server. The domain mode will be Win threshold, it's Windows 2016. The domain name will be learnedlessons.com, and NetBIOS name lead, forest mode Win threshold, as well it's Windows 2016. I'm installing DNS on it. And basically, that's it. When it's done, it'll be ready for integration into our Azure lab environment. Now we can go ahead and add this on-prem ADDS server to our Microsoft Entra ID. So I'll click Microsoft Entra ID, click Microsoft Entra Connect. As you can see, we've got Get Started page here. You can read tons of information about Get Started with Microsoft Entra Connect. So for now, I'll skip this page and click this link, Connect Sync. And here we've got this download link. I'll click it and download the Azure AD Connect version 2. Please make sure to select the correct language for your installation. I'm okay with English, so I click download, and then I'll copy this file to my virtual machine. Now the download is complete, and I'll switch to virtual machine, lead DC1, I'll connect to it, and paste the file of this application. Let me double click it, agree to the license terms and privacy notice, and click continue. Here we've got two options, express settings and customize. I offer you not to select use express settings because you can get lots of troubles afterwards. So just click customize, and if you don't need anything to configure right now, just leave all the options blank. I'll click install. Now, while it's installing, I'll create an administrator password for Azure tenant to connect this administrator later on in this wizard. So I'll switch to Microsoft Azure infrastructure and click on Microsoft Entra ID, click on users, and click new user. I'll create new user, name it administrator, and display name administrator, and password I'll use my password here, and click review and create. By the way, I need to add it to global administrator role, so I'll click add role and type in global, select global administrator, and then click review and create again. Now get back to the installation wizard. Here you'll get several options, user sign-in options. For now, I'll select password hash synchronization and click next. Now I'll use this administrator user which I've just created. I'll type in administrator and its password. Type in this username and password once more. Update the password and click sign in. Click next. Click ask later. And I can add directory, namely learnedlessons.com directory. So I click here, I'll create a new AD account, and for this I'll type in the administrator account of this on-prem ADDC domain controller. Select Forest. In Azure AD sign-in configuration, I'll leave all the defaults and click Next. In this domain and OU filtering, we can select the necessary organizational units or domains which are necessary. So I'll select sync selected domains and OUs, and I'll select only users for now. And now I'll select all defaults for now. I'll click Next. Leave a default here and click Next. Click Next, and we are done. Take a look at Microsoft Entra ID as a directory service for cloud apps. It plays a crucial role as a centralized directory service for cloud applications, providing authentication and authorization capabilities across various Microsoft and third-party cloud services. There is a detailed explanation of its function and importance in this lesson. Let's start with Unified Directory for Cloud Services. Organizations deploy cloud services like Microsoft 365 or Intune. They require directory services in the cloud for authentication and authorization. Additionally, each cloud service might create its own Microsoft Entra tenant. And Microsoft Entra ID now serves as a single unified directory service for multiple cloud services, enhancing convenience and streamlining management. Second aspect is centralized identity service. Microsoft Entra ID provides a centralized identity service covering all Microsoft cloud-based services, including 365, Azure, Dynamics, Intune. This centralization allows for more efficient identity management across the entire Microsoft Cloud ecosystem. Next aspect is integration with custom applications. Developers can leverage Microsoft Entra ID for centralized authentication and authorization in custom Azure applications. While the process can be complex, tools like Azure Portal and Microsoft Visual Studio simplify the configuration. Next aspect is support for external identity providers. Microsoft Entra can integrate with other identity providers, including on-premises ADDS. This flexibility allows organizations to maintain existing identity infrastructures while leveraging cloud capabilities. Finally, single sign-on experience. Microsoft Entra enables SSO across various applications and services, including Facebook, Google services, Yahoo, Microsoft Cloud services, and so on. This feature enhances user experience and productivity by reducing the need for multiple logins. You can also use web apps authentication in Azure. The Azure portal allows easily configuration of Microsoft Entra authentication for web apps in Azure App Service. It can be done directly from Authentication Authorization Blade in the Azure portal. Administrators can specifically use some tenant and specify it to use it with some web app, ensuring that only users with accounts in that directory can access the website. Different authentication settings can be applied to individual deployment slots, offering flexibility in access control. And of course, finally, simplified cloud identity management. By providing a single directory for multiple cloud services, Microsoft Entra ID simplifies identity management in complex cloud environments. It reduces the need for maintaining separate directories for each cloud service, streamlining administration and improving security. Let's compare Microsoft Entra ID P1 and P2 plans here. Entra ID Premium P1 and P2 offers enhanced functionality compared to the free or Office 365 editions. These premium versions require additional per-user licensing costs. Let's take a look at the features included in the plans. First one is self-service group management. It simplifies group administration. Users can create and manage groups. It enables request-based group joining with owner approval. Next one is advanced security reports and alerts. It provides detailed logs with advanced ML detection, offers inconsistent access pattern reports, and it uses machine learning to improve access security. Next feature included in P1 is multi-factor authentication. It works with on-premises applications such as VPN, Radius, and so on. And it supports Azure, 365, Dynamics, and third-party Microsoft Entra Gallery applications. Note that it doesn't work with non-browser off-the-shelf apps like Microsoft Outlook. Next feature is Microsoft Identity Manager licensing, MIM licensing. It integrates with Microsoft Entra ID for hybrid identity solutions, and it bridges multiple on-premises authentication stores with Microsoft Entra ID. Next one is Enterprise SLA. It guarantees at least 99.9% availability of the service. Next one is password reset with write back. Self-service password reset follows the on-premises Active Directory password policy. Next one is Cloud App Discovery. It discovers the most frequently used cloud-based applications. Additional access. Additional access configures access based on device, group, or location. It enables fine-grained control over critical resource access. Finally, Microsoft Entra Connect Health provides organizational insights into the Microsoft Entra ID, and it also monitors alerts, performance counters, usage patterns, and configuration settings. As for Microsoft Entra ID P1 additional features, first one is Microsoft Entra ID Protection. It offers enhanced its P2 additional features. The first one was P1, and these are additional features which are not included in P1 features and come with P2. So, protection. It offers enhanced user account monitoring and protection. Also allows definition of user risk policies and sign-in policies, and it enables review and flagging of users for risk. One more feature is Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management. Configures additional security levels for privileged users, defines permanent and temporary administrators, and implements policy workflows for administrative privilege usage. Please note that both P1 and P2 plans are available as standalone licenses or as part of the Microsoft Enterprise Mobility Plus Security Suite, which includes Azure Information Protection and Intune. Microsoft offers a free trial period for the full functionality of the Microsoft Entra ID P2 edition. The same 99.9% SLA applies to Microsoft Entra Basic as well. Plans and features are subject to change. It's always recommended to check Microsoft's official website for the most current information on plans and capabilities. The choice between P1 and P2 depends on the specific security and measurement needs of the organization, particularly regarding advanced threat protection and privileged identity management, which is included in P2 additional features. Some words about Microsoft Entra Domain Services. Microsoft Entra Domain Services is a managed domain service that provides domain services such as group policy management, domain joining, Kerberos authentication to your Microsoft Entra tenant. It's designed to support organizations moving their line of business applications from on-premises to the cloud. Let's review key features and benefits of Microsoft Entra Domain Services. First, domain services in the cloud. It provides policy management, domain joining, and Kerberos authentication. It is fully compatible with locally deployed Active Directory domain services. Second, simplified management. It eliminates the need to manage, update, and monitor domain controllers. No need to manage Active Directory replication, and it also removes the requirement for domain admins or enterprise admins groups. But integration with existing infrastructure. It works with Microsoft Entra Connect for hybrid environments. Users can use organizational credentials in both on-premises ADDS and Microsoft Entra Domain Services. There is also cloud-only option. It can be used without on-premises ADDS. It enables ADDS-like functionality without deploying domain controllers. Now, for use cases for this service, for example, application migration. It will facilitate migration of applications using LDAP, TLM, or Kerberos protocols from on-premises to the cloud. The second use case could be cloud-based applications. Support applications like Microsoft SQL Server or SharePoint Server on Azure VMs without needing domain controllers in the cloud. Or one more use case could be for hybrid environments. It enables domain services for virtual networks connecting on-premises resources to Microsoft Entra tenant. There are some limitations to this service. While Microsoft Entra Domain Services offers many benefits, it's important to be aware of its current limitations. First one is only base computer Active Directory objects are supported. Schema extensions are not possible. The organizational unit structure is flat, and nested OUs are not supported. There is a built-in group policy object for computer and user accounts, and limited GPO targeting capabilities, and target OUs use WMI filters or security group filtering. Now, this service is available as part of Microsoft Entra ID P1 and P2 tier. It can be enabled through the Azure portal and charged per hour based on the size of your directory. Microsoft Entra Domain Services provides an alternative to implement a site-to-site VPN between local infrastructure and Azure AAS, or deploying replica domain controllers from local ADDS as VMs in Azure. Time for knowledge check. This knowledge check tests your understanding of key concepts relating to Microsoft Entra ID, its benefits, and licensing tiers. Let's review each question and explain the correct answer. Question 1. Benefits of Microsoft Entra ID versus Active Directory. The question is, what is a benefit of using Microsoft Entra ID versus Active Directory? That Microsoft Entra ID uses Kerberos authentication for access across applications, or Microsoft Entra ID is a cloud-based identity solution, or Microsoft Entra ID can vary using lightweight directory access protocol or LDAP. Just pause here and think about the correct answer. The correct answer is Microsoft Entra ID is cloud-based identity solution. It is designed specifically for internet-based applications. It is accessible from anywhere with an internet connection. It scales easily to meet changing business needs, and it reduces on-premises infrastructure requirements. For the other two options, the first one, Kerberos authentication. While important, this is not unique to Microsoft Entra ID. Traditional AD also uses Kerberos. As for the second option, LDAP querying, Microsoft Entra ID actually doesn't support LDAP queries. It uses REST APIs instead, which is another key difference from traditional AD. Question 2. Microsoft Entra ID licensing for risk-based sign-ins. Question is, in addition to the free features of Microsoft Entra ID, what is the minimum premium version licensing needed to implement risk-based sign-ins? Is it Office 365, Microsoft Entra ID P2, Microsoft Entra ID P1? Just pause here and think about the correct answer. And the correct answer is Microsoft Entra ID P2. It includes Microsoft Entra ID protection, which provides risk-based conditional access. And it also offers advanced security features like risk-based sign-ins. Other options, Office 365, for example, while it includes some Microsoft Entra ID features, it doesn't provide advanced security capabilities like risk-based sign-ins. As for Microsoft Entra ID P2, it offers many premium features but doesn't include the advanced security and identity protection features found in P2. Some more key points to remember here. One provides essential premium features like hybrid identities, advanced group access management, and conditional access. P2 builds on P1 by adding advanced security features, including risk-based conditional access policy. Organizations requiring advanced identity protection and access management, P2 is the recommended tier. Understanding these licensing tiers is crucial for organizations to choose the right level of identity and access management capabilities for their needs.